It's happened to a lot of good players. It was Russell Westbrook, 5-game triple-double streak coming in. Found Paul George, who's just been unbelievable lately, and he had 11 in the first quarter.
Lights out. Paul George has been lights out. He's played his way into the MVP conversation that you mentioned, Matt, and has really kept the Thunder afloat all season long.
Jump ball, Jason Tatum gets the dunk on the other end, and then Kyrie, crossover, layup. He had 20 at halftime. Boston up by 8. Third quarter. 11-0 OKC run. Remember, the Thunder came in on a 7-game win streak, including 4 straight on the road. George with 37, Adams 16 and 8 rebounds. Third quarter, Marcus Smart goes off for 11 in the third.
Big third quarter for Marcus Smart, and much needed for these Celtics, man.
11 of his 18, in fact. Also had 7 assists. Boston's lead is a dozen. Westbrook, he has something left over for the fourth quarter. Quick to the layup. Again to the paint. Westbrook's had some low shooting totals here lately, but he took 19 in this one and winds up with 22. Irving, 30 on the night to go with a dozen assists. They got 11 assists. Westbrook to Jeremy Grant, big shot for 3. And OKC is very much in this thing. Jason Tatum. That's off the back rim. Door very much ajar. Westbrook comes down. Irving jumps in. It's a turnover.
Could almost give Kyrie Irving a steal on that too, man. What a fantastic defensive play. The pressure on the ball. Knock that ball loose and preserve that win for the Celtics.
Timed it just perfectly. So despite Westbrook's 6th straight triple-double, that's the longest triple-double streak for him since he twice had 7 in a row during his MVP season. Boston gets the win. They've won 4 in a row, 9 of their last 10. Kyrie now has 4 30-point, 10-assist games on the season. That is a career high. Here he is with Israel Gutierrez. Kind of a tepid go Pats for the second time this weekend from Kyrie Irving. And that's just going to feed into the conversation about his future, which, of course, has been a hot topic this season. He vowed before the season he's going to re-sign in Boston. This week he said, check with me July 1st. But he reminded folks on the floor once again why everybody league-wide is going to want him.
Oh, no question. And we'll read between the lines on everything he says between now and July 1st. But there's no question. You don't have to read anything to understand just how unbelievable this Boston team is when Kyrie is on his game and digging into his back man. And when, let's be honest, when the defense is focused on Kyrie, it does open up avenues for everybody else offensively to be effective. So Kyrie has to focus his attention on making sure that he's at his very best and attacking to open up the floor for everybody else on this team and to make Boston the threat they need to be.
It's such a great combination because he can close games for them, but Boston is a deep team, and they're a team that moves the ball. They had 8 players in double figures and 36 assists, one shy of their season high.
To me, this is when the Celtics present so many issues for you because they don't have outstanding deep shooting, but they have good enough outside shooting and a great passing big man in Al Horford, you see there, who's finding the guy. He's going to make that pass after he gets that first one. He'll make the right play. So you're talking about stretching the floor with guys who are threats off the dribble from basically everywhere, and you've got finishers. You know, you got guys like Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Tatum, all of them capable of finishing at the rim or slashing to the basket to be effective as well. Boston has, to me, what might be the best balance on that roster of any team in the East and arguably in the league.
Ton of depth, ton of balance, as you said, and maybe not an elite three-point shooting team, but a good enough one. They shot 38% in this game, and coaches will take that any night of the season. All right, much more coming up here on Game Time. Stick with us. Serge Ibaka and the Raptors trying to get back on the right track with the Clippers in town on Sunday. And like old times, as Marc Gasol and Mike Conley team up for a Grizzlies victory. That's right, I said victory.
Grit and grind.
2 of the toastier teams in the league hooked up on the parquet in Boston tonight. This is Kyrie Irving, who went for a 30 huge bucket late to make it a 2-possession game. OKC not quite done yet. Jason Tatum opened up the door for Russell Westbrook. Comes back the other way, a little out of control as he goes behind the back and turns it over. And Boston hangs on to win at 134-129. They've won 4 in a row and 9 of their last 10. Siakam, if you got him. Pascal, breakaway dunk here, 16-point lead for the Toronto Raptors on their home floor. And in New York, hey, the Memphis Grizzlies got a win. It was like old times. Mike Conley and Marc Gasol put up 49 points as they beat the Knicks 96-84. Howdy, good to have you along with us here on Super Bowl Sunday, home of Super Bowl 53, Atlanta, Georgia.
Playing football today?
Yeah, there's a football game.
So we're just worried about basketball.
Like 2 miles from here.
That's right.
There's a big football game, and there's a whole mess of people down there that
right.
we're avoiding.
That's right.
We are actively avoiding all week long. It's the way of a lot of Atlantans are looking at this event is stay away from downtown as much as you possibly can.
No question about it. Love the crowds, love seeing them from afar, love seeing them on TV, but I'd much rather be right here talking hoops right now.
And I assume you'll be in your living room or someone else's living room for the actual game.
I'm hoping to find a way to watch a piece of it, to be honest with you, Matt. I'm a fourth quarter guy on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I wait until the game's on the line. I like crunch time on the Super Bowl.
You don't even tune in until the fourth quarter?
Usually. I'm kind of hanging out.
You're not there for the commercials?
No.
You're not interested in the halftime? None of that other stuff?
I'm there for the wings, whatever snacks are there.
Sure.
And then if the game gets good late, I'll watch the end of the game.
Interesting. All right. Speaking of games, one in progress.
They're expending all the energy and effort it would have taken to come back the way they did. But Toronto's an interesting team for me, Matt. I've been watching them, trying to figure out what their evolution will be as a group over the course of this season with all the in and out of the lineup with Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry. Mm-hmm. You've been trying to figure out who's their other guy, who's the other person they're going to be able to lean on, once we get deeper into this season and into the playoffs. And more you watch him, you feel like Pascal Siakam might be that guy.
Yeah, it could be. He's certainly a leading contender for most improved player around the league. I don't know at this point in his career that if you're a Raptors fan, you say, okay, this is our third scorer, right? In a pinch, or if somebody's in foul trouble, or if somebody's hurt, if you think, okay, this is the guy we're relying on in a playoff series. I don't know if he's there yet or not, or if they might be looking around for that next week at the trade deadline.
Yeah, listen, for a Raptors team that had questions about their two franchise stars previous to this season, in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, I certainly don't think you can anoint Siakam as that guy now. You're still wondering what's his ceiling as a player in, like you said, is he ready for that now? Is he ready for the pressure that comes with being that third guy? Because we both know in the playoffs, inevitably one of your top two guys is going to have the defense focused completely on him.
Right.
That means the other guy has an opportunity to kind of stretch out and do some things, and that third guy becomes the real critical piece in you getting through a series. I would assume Nick Nurse is grooming him for that role, but we don't know for sure. As you mentioned, with the trade deadline coming, what does it mean for them in terms of how they pursue that extra piece that everybody's looking for right now to push them over the hump?
Well, and Lowry's playoff history is hit or miss, of course, as well. So the deadline coming up on Thursday, if you haven't circled that on your NBA calendar. So this is the time you sort of polish the rough edges on your roster. And Toronto's a very deep team. There's a lot going for them, but that doesn't mean they're perfect. What should they be looking for?
Well, no, and listen, everybody, I think now, given the nature of the landscape with the trade request, obviously, from Anthony Davis, also a trade request and a trade delivered, for Kristaps Porzingis, it starts shaking up the landscape in terms of who's willing to move, Matt. And I think if you're looking at Toronto, there are a couple of different ways you can go with home run moves that would put you in a position to say, all right, we're ready in the East to really, swing an axe in the playoffs and announce ourselves as the team to beat. If Marc Gasol's available and you've got a chance to upgrade at the 5 and really put an anchor player like that, with Valanciunas' injury, history, Serge Ibaka's being asked to play, to me, out of position. So Marc Gasol gives you kind of that big physical anchor who can also step out and stretch the floor a little bit, play away from the basket. He's ideal. And is there any team right now? I mean, every single team is looking for another shooter, so that means that those guys who are fringe guys that are on the bench or out of a rotation right now that are good shooters. Kind of guy like Wayne Ellington in Miami, who's going to be able to come in. And it's not about him picking up your offense or figuring out where he fits, in terms of his role, but just being a guy who can knock down shots. Just can come off a screen, knock down a shot. Ellington, on a Miami team where you have so many like-minded pieces, I mean, they got to have the league lead for guys 6'3.5" to 6'5",
right.
On that roster right now. He'd be a guy to me that would be kind of a seamless fit for Toronto if they're looking to add that extra shooter, another guy who can stretch the floor, knock down shots, take some of the pressure off Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry. Ellington would be a guy who fit that mold to me if you're the Raptors.
I think there are a number of teams who are going to be interested in Wayne Ellington because of his contract and because of his particular set of NBA skills as a basically a three-point specialist at this point in his career. It'll be interesting to see what the market is and what Miami can extract from another team trying to get him. But for a Toronto team that is 19th in the league in three-point shooting and is taking more of them the last couple of seasons, he or somebody of that ilk, somebody who can come out off the bench and spread the floor a little bit, certainly would make some sense. Let's get into some highlights here. You saw the tail end of that OKC Boston highlight. You did not see Russell Westbrook's outfit today until just now.
Until right now.
Yeah. That's what he wore. Kyrie Irving. Look at that move. In traffic. The ball handling and the finish. As good as anybody in the league at either of those skills. This is Paul George.
Playing fantastic. I mean, what a January he's had, and really what a season he's had. Matt, just asserting himself as really to me, the lead guy on that Thunder team. I know Russell Westbrook is doing the triple-doubles on a regular basis, but to me, this is Paul George's season.
Well, George had 37 in this game, so he's averaging over 38 over his last 4 games now. And then you see the Celtics going to work offensively. Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving, who had 20 at the half, and Boston led by 8 at the break. Remember the Thunder on a 7-game win streak, and here they come. George from 3, shot 5 of 16 from three-point range in this game. Steven Adams for the dunk from Russell Westbrook, who continued his triple-double streak to 6. Marcus Smart, 11 points in the third quarter. Not what you would expect from Marcus Smart necessarily.
No, but that quality
Look at that
depth,
shot.
That quality of depth on the Boston roster, Matt, shines through night after night. We talk so much about Kyrie, but it's really about the depth on that roster, to me, that Brad Stevens has to really dig in and lean on down the stretch of the season.
Westbrook with 22. That pulled him to within 2 at 121-119. Here comes Irving. Beats his man and the finish in traffic, and that's what Kyrie can do late in games, what makes him so valuable to the Celtics and apparently a lot of other teams.